Probably don't know who I am.
Olivia Schwartz.
Right, okay.
I was at your home.
That's why I'm interfering, but you
Yeah.
just make it.
Okay. Okay, everyone, we're about to start, so please take your seats. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for coming. It's very nice to see you all of you. My name is Yonatan Gordon. I'm the development director for American Friends of Galanai. And this is a pre-Purim festive event in order to make the world a better place. So thank you all for participating. It's very nice to see all of you. So I just wanted to say a few quick words. I know we're getting to a late start, so just a minute or two. So this is something that I just came to from the Rabbi about Tikkun Olam, the repair of the world, which is the topic of tonight. If you see what needs to be repaired and how to repair it, then you have found a piece of the world that God has left for you to complete. But if you only see what is wrong and what is ugly in the world, then it is you yourself that need repair. So the theme is seeing what's beautiful, finding what's beautiful in the world. And it's also answering pressing needs, right? There's a lot of things that are pressing issues in the world that need to be resolved. And we all came to this class because we believe that the Torah is the answer. The Torah is the way to resolve these issues. So I want to thank you for coming, and to again afterwards, if you haven't yet signed up, it's a very good thing to at least commit to the $1 a day to support all the efforts throughout Israel. We have an album on the table that you can look through, a beautiful album of all the activities that go on yearly throughout Israel, all the different institutions. And the main thing is that from this class, that the world should be lighter and happier, and we should see Mashiach. But it starts now, so enjoy the class. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. My pleasure to be here. Baruch Hashem. Haven't been here for several years. The topic that was publicized for this class is called The Power of the Torah to Mend a Broken World. That's the choice of the people that organized the class. Since we're approaching Purim, so maybe we'll begin with a word about Purim. That Bashkocha Prati, since we're before Purim, so it must mean that Purim is the secret way to rectify the world, to mend all of the problems that we face in our modern world, preparing us for Mashiach. Perhaps the most important verse in the whole Megillat Esther is Layehudim Hayta Orah v'simcha v'sason v'yikar. every Motzei Shabbos after Havdalah, or before, while making Havdalah, we say this verse. So it's a verse that applies all the time, all year around. The Jews, we the Jewish people, had light and happiness and joy and preciousness. ליהודים הייתה אורה ושמחה וששון ויקר. The sages say that each one of these four terms refers to something else, something special. Ora zo Torah, light is the Torah, Torah or. Simcha, happiness, is Yom Tov, is the festival of making Purim a Yom Tov, just like all of the Yom Tovim of the Torah, with the Suda Purim, which is called a Mishteh, that we drink. We say a lot of l'chaim, ad lo yada, reaching a level which is super mind, super rational, unable to distinguish between cursed is Haman and blessed is Mordechai. That's the simcha of Purim, the happiness. And then joy, usually joy is the climax of happiness. But in this particular context, in this verse, Chazal say that joy refers to bris milo. Every time that there's a circumcision of bris milo, the Maal says, one of the verses he says, is Sos onichialim rosecha k'meitzei shalorov. I'm joyful observing your word, just as a person that has found a multitude of booty. So that verse refers to bris milo, and that's the type of joy is called sason, sas. And once more, it means coming to climax, when joy comes to its high point. And then the final word is yikar, which means dear or precious. And the Chazal say, our sages say, that word refers to tefillin, mitzvah tefillin, because it could also be read as the root in Hebrew, which means to call. Yikar, if it's yud kuf reish, it means dear or precious. But if it's kuf reish aleph, which is a related cognate root in Hebrew, so it means to call. So Chazal say that about tefillin, there's a verse at the end of the Torah that says, "V'ra'u chol amei ha'aretz," all of the people on earth shall see that the name of God is called upon you, and they shall fear you. Rabbi Eliezer Agadol says, what does it mean that the name of God is called upon you? Eilu tefillin shebarosh. These are the tefillin that a person, a Jewish male, wears on his head. And the phrase is not the tefillin that are on the head, but the tefillin that are in the head. Meaning that the holiness of the Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, the unity of Hashem that's written in the tefillin, is not just above, it's not just you place it on your skull, on your head, but it's inside your head. And that light, or that consciousness, reaches even the outside goyish world. And when all of the peoples on earth see that and experience that, they are in fear of you. In the Megillah, after this verse, "Layudim hayta ora v'simcha v'sason v'yikar," it says, "V'rabim me'amei haaretz mityahadim ki nafach pachad hayudim aleihem," that many of the peoples on earth, all of them that saw this great miracle happen to the Jewish people, they converted to Judaism, became Jews. Because the fear is awe. When you see some great miracle happen, so it results in a sense of awe. That experience of awe in the presence, the face of the Jewish people, that God performed this miracle, caused that many non-Jewish people should convert. This relates to to what we're now calling the fourth revolution, of reaching out Yafutzu Mainotecha Chutza, reaching out to the non-Jewish world. It began, we can say this revolution began with Purim. And that's the final word. It's always from the final word of that verse, that the Jews had light and happiness and joy, and that preciousness. It also says in Kabbalah that precious is when you're able to extract a spark of holiness from an unholy context. That's the most precious thing. That was like a jewel. Being able to take out a jewel from dust, or from even garbage, to be able to take out a precious jewel. That's Yikar. And that precious jewel is a spark. Sparks that are found universally around the world, especially in our generation. There are thousands and millions, and even more than millions, of potential sparks present in non-Jewish people that we are responsible to reach out and to arouse, to awaken, and to ignite those sparks, that they are, on their own are drawn and attracted and want to become identified with the faith of Israel and the people of Israel. Right, so all of this is it's actually the last word of that verse. That's the preciousness that the Jews had. Light, Orah, Simcha, Sason, V'Yekar. In Kabbalah and Chassidus, it's explained that these 4 words correspond also to the 4 letters of Hashem's essential name, Yud Kei Vav Kei. Meaning that light, Zot Torah, is wisdom, Yud, the first letter of Hashem's name. Horaita michokhma nafkat. The Torah is revealed from the wisdom, the divine wisdom of God. Simcha is Bina Ima, it's the mother figure. Eim habanim smecha. The mother of children is happy. Happiness is mother. Light is called the father principle, the Yud of Hashem's name. Happiness is the mother principle. Sason, Zon Milah, that climax of joy, which Chazal relate to circumcision, to Bris Milah, is the climax actually of the 6 emotive powers of the heart. That climax is the 6th of the 6, which is called the Sfirat HaYesod, the channel, the divine channel, which is called foundation, which relates, corresponds to the Bris Milah. And that Yesod then connects with Malchus, which is the Ikar, or the dearness, the preciousness, the extracting all of the sparks from the world, but reaching out. That's Malchut, kingdom. The final Hey of Hashem's name descends into the lower realms, the lower worlds, in order to take out all of the sparks, to redeem, to liberate all of the sparks that are within the broken vessels. So actually, if we relate this now to the topic this evening, that in that topic, the way it was publicized, it says a broken world, that there's something broken about our world. That concept of broken world comes from Kabbalah, called Shfirat HaKedim. That the very beginning of creation, the world is already broken. That's the way God created it, intentionally. Now people also participate in breaking the world. But the first one that broke the world was God Himself. The original world, the primordial world, which is called the world of chaos. And when those vessels broke and fell and died and were buried into the lower realms of self-consciousness, before the breaking of the vessels, there's no self-conscious, only divine consciousness. The definition of the breaking of the vessels is that things become severed and disassociated from the divine source, and then they begin to experience and feel themselves as separate entities of yesh, of somethingness. That itself is being broken, that you're broken away from your source. And as soon as you're broken away from your source, so you experience yourself. You feel yourself. The more broken you are, the more you're into yourself. To mend that brokenness is to return to feel one source and to identify and be part of one source, which is God, the Creator. So at the very beginning of creation, vessels were broken, sparks fell into the broken vessels, and our service of Hashem, so explains the Arizal, is to redeem those sparks by keeping the Torah and the mitzvot that Hashem gave us. About father and mother, we're taught in Kabbalah and Chassidut that train re'in de lo mitparshin la'amin. Father and mother are two companions that never separate. Meaning in our context, the first two words of our verse, the first two words are Orah and Simcha, which correspond to father and mother, meaning that wherever there's a light, there is happiness. They always go together. The other two, each one can exist in its own right, by itself. But the first two are two companions that never separate. The light and the happiness, meaning the Torah and the festive state of being happy with Hashem that has given us this great miracle of Purim, and every miracle of life. The miracle of Purim is a miracle which is enclosed and to a certain extent concealed within nature itself, but it's a miracle. But nature is also a miracle. But Purim is more a miracle, but nonetheless it's still concealed and contained within nature. Then there's a revealed miracle like Pesach, the holiday that comes after Purim, which is also a Geulah, redemption. And it says that we have to connect the redemption of Purim with the redemption of Pesach. Meaning to know that those miracles which are enclosed in nature are also the same as the totally revealed miracles that are above and actually defy nature as the miracles of Pesach. It's all one. This is a topic that the Rabbi explains in many, many Maimorim, that there's nature, which itself is a miracle, but above nature is Purim, and it's a miracle that's enclosed within nature. It's a more miracle than just nature by itself. And then there is a revealed miracle. There's something about this intermediate state, which is Purim, the miracle which is enclosed in nature, that it's even more than the revealed miracles. Because it's a paradox. It's a union of two opposites. So once more, the simcha of Purim is the simcha, the happiness of experiencing the miracle and rejoicing in the miracle by making a suda, a festive meal and drinking and saying l'chaim ad lo yada. That goes together with the orah. The orah is the Torah. The Torah of Purim is Megillat Esther, the scroll of Esther. That's the special orah of Purim. These two go together. Now we'll turn to two verses in Proverbs that are also a pair of verses. One verse reads, this is in the first chapter of Proverbs, it reads, Chochmot bachutz tarona, barachovot titen kola. That wisdom, or actually it's in the plural, wisdoms on the outside will sing. In the streets, they will lift up their voice. That's one verse. The other verse, which is a few chapters afterwards, in chapter 5 in Proverbs, reads, Yafutzu mainotecha chutza, may your well springs burst out to the very furthest extremes of the world of reality. Barachovot palgei mayim. In the streets there shall be streams of water, which is a corresponding phrase to the first phrase, that may your well springs burst out to the outside. The two verses have several terms in common, meaning that it's a pair of verses, as is often the phenomenon in the Tanakh, in the Bible, that verses appear in pairs. One is the word barachovot, a phenomenon, an experience that happens in the streets. The other is the word bachutz, outside. What are the mainotecha? The second verse we probably know better than the first verse, because the second verse is the verse that the Mashiach himself said to the Baal Shem Tov when the Baal Shem Tov asked him, when are you coming? When is our master coming? When is Mashiach coming? So he said, Mashiach answered, and this has become like the motto of Chassidut from that time on to the present moment, that I will come when your well springs will burst to the furthest extremes. Yafutzu mainotecha chutza. Those three words probably all of us know well. The continuation of the verse not everybody knows, which is barachovot palgei mayim. In the streets, you have to fill, the streets will become flooded with streams of water. That's the continuation of Yafutzu mainotecha chutza. The first verse that we quoted is actually the verse that in Hasidus, especially the Middle Rebbe, makes as the Dibra Masel, the beginning of all of his discourses of Hasidus in the order of Torah. The first Drush, the first Maimer Hasidus in Breishis, is based upon this verse, which is Chochmot bachutz tarona, that wisdom in the outside will sing. Barachovot, once we're in the streets, titen kola, it will raise up her voice. How does the Middle Rebbe explain it? He explains it so that Chochmot is the plural, but the verbs, it's a very unusual phenomenon in this verse, that the subject is in the plural, wisdoms, but the verb is in the singular, in both halves of the verse. Chochmot bachutz tarona, the commentaries say that word tarona is actually the singular tense, means that if you have a plural form, it at least refers to two levels of that word, of that concept. So it means that there must be two levels of wisdom that unite, and the verb relates to the two levels together just as one. It's one thing, one concept. Chochmot, bachut, and when does this occur? When does it happen? It happens when these two wisdoms together reach the outside. Before they reach the outside, they're separate. But just when they reach the outside, they become one and they sing together as one. Once more, they sing together as one as in the singular tense. Chochmot bachutz tarona. And then the continuation of the verse is also in the singular tense. Barachovot, in the streets, titen kola. Titen kola, she will give up, raise up her voice. What are the two wisdoms that become one? On Tafcha especially, when they reach the outside, it's called the wisdom of creation and the wisdom of the Torah. We can even call it secular wisdom and the holy wisdom of the Torah. What's the difference? Secular wisdom is the wisdom to create. God creates, people also form and create. In our world, what does it mean that the wisdom to create? The wisdom to create today, in the very simplest sense, means technology. More and more things are being produced, new things, new machines. Technology is always advancing. Generations, or every few years, you already have a new generation of technology. That itself, that technology which goes on and increases, that's part of breaking the world. People might think that's a good thing, technology, but technology, in a certain sense, it breaks the stream. It breaks something in society, in consciousness. What is the wisdom of the Torah? How does it explain in Chassidut? What's the difference between the wisdom of the Torah and the wisdom of Maaseh Breshit, of creation? The wisdom of the Torah is the wisdom of Beirur, of clarification, of recognizing the divine source in everything. And once more, extracting the divine spark, just as we said before. The secret of the word Yikar. That's called the wisdom of the Torah. The wisdom of the Torah is to bring back the Creator, the revelation, the experience of the Creator within the creation. So obviously the two are related, because the Maaseh Breshit, the Chokhmat Maaseh Breshit, the wisdom of creation, is to make something new in this world. Sounds good, but it's not good if it's separate from the Creator, from the true Creator. It's not good. And what's more, it continues the breaking of the vessels. But if it is connected to the wisdom of the Torah, then it's very good. The Rabbi always used to say that all technology is created and is for the sake of the Torah. All the media should be used simply to spread the light of the Torah. But it's not a simple undertaking. So once more, Chokhmot, the way this is now, we're saying over from the way the Mitzvah Rebbe explains. Chokhmot means taking the wisdom of creation, the wisdom of nature, and connecting it with the wisdom of Torah. Where does that unification, that connection, the two wisdoms, where does it take place? It doesn't take place in the context of the Torah. It doesn't take place inside. You don't bring the secular or the science into the Torah. You bring the Torah into the science. It says, Chokhmot bachutz tarona. The wisdom, the two wisdoms, they meet and they connect and they become one on the outside. And then they sing together. Those two words, bachutz tarona, on the outside they sing, is also the most important figure of Megillat Esther is Esther. The Megillah, the scroll, is called after Esther. What's the story of Esther? That she actually, in a certain way, had Mesirut Nefesh. She sacrificed herself to go to the furthest extreme of the outside, which was to marry Achashverosh. Those two words, Machutz, Tarona, in the outside they sing, or she sings. She sings on the outside. The gematria of those two words is Esther Amalka, Queen Esther. So there's an allusion to Queen Esther in this verse. Chochmot Bachutz Tarona. The initial letters of those two words, Bachutz Tarona, is Bat, daughter. Batihila Levat. She's called the daughter of Mordechai. She was first raised by Mordechai as a child, and then she actually married Mordechai before she went outside. But Chochmot Bachutz Tarona Barochovot Titen Kola. And once more, that corresponds to the other verse, Yafutzu Manotel Chutza. So if there's a question of where can we find a source in the Torah for what we're now calling the Fourth Revolution, which is reaching out even to the non-Jewish world, to arouse those sparks, those potential sparks, not only that there should be good, what's called Chasidei Umot Olam, good non-Jews that keep the 7 mitzvot b'nei Noach, but actually consciously to try to reach those sparks that are potential converts, just as in the Torah, the story of Megillat Esther, the story of Purim. That's Chochmot Bachutz Tarona. That's Yafutzu Manotel Chutza. As your well springs have to reach to the furthest extreme. Chutza she'en chutza, chutza mimenu. To the outside, there's no outside, more outside than that outside. And that must refer to the non-Jewish world, because if it doesn't refer to the non-Jewish world, then there's something which is more chutza, more outside. And it says, Yafutzu Manotel Chutza, to such an outside that there's no more outside than that outside. Okay, so this was the first important thing, that in order for the Torah to mend or to heal all of the illness and all of the brokenness of the world, of our reality, the two wisdoms have to meet and become one and sing together. And where does it take place? It does not take place in the Beis HaMedrash. It takes place in the streets. Outside in the streets. That's where it happens. In Hebrew, when you say that something is broken, the word broken in Hebrew is the same as the word for a fraction. Splitting something into parts, a fraction. The most basic fraction is 1/2. Splitting something into a half. Just like in nature we find that cells split into a half, many things split. The beginning of breaking is splitting into 2 halves. Now those 2 halves have to reconnect, find one another, just like a man and a woman were split apart and they have to find one another and unite. What about the word olam? We all know from Chassidus, from learning a little bit of Chassidus, that olam means, the word olam is from the word he'elem ve'ester, which means concealment. The very definition of the word olam is that the Göttlichkeit, divinity, is concealed in the world. But how much does this very important word olam, world, what does it equal in gematria? It equals 146. The beginning of breaking the world, what we're trying to do this evening is this, in all of the concepts, even negative concepts, there must be a root in holiness. In order to mend it and rectify it, it has to reach back to its root. The beginning of breaking the world is simply splitting the world into 2 equal halves. What is 146? 146 is a even number. Even numbers can be split into halves. Odd numbers cannot be split into halves. There's some numbers that can't be split at all. They're called prime numbers. What about into equal parts. What about 146? If we split that number in half, which means that's called, once we're in the Torah, that's called breaking it. For instance, just to give an example of how the word is used in the Torah, the Holy Ark that we read about in the last few weeks in the Torah, the Aron HaKodesh, its measurements were all halves. 2.5 amot cubits, 1.5 amot. It was 1.5 by 1.5 by 2.5. Why are all of the measurements with a half? What is the term for it in Hebrew, in the Torah? It's called midot shvurot. The term is broken measurements. That the measurements of the most holy part of the temple are broken. They're all in halves. As we'll explain a little bit more afterwards. Does anybody know, can tell me right now, what is the most positive being broken experience? It's called Lev Nishbar V'Nitkeh Elokim Lo Tivzeh. A broken heart, God will not demise. God loves broken hearts. The Rabbi Rashab said that there's no perfect vessel to contain light, divine light and revelation as a broken heart. I mean, there's something good about being broken. So all of the bad phenomena, broken phenomena, have to go back to find its good source. Maybe we remember the story when the Alter Rebbe, the first Rebbe of Chabad, was taken to prison. So he sent a pidyon nefesh, a pan, to Reb Levi Yisrael Barditchev, his mechuten, his in-law, to daven for him, to pray for him, to arouse mercy for him. And he sent the pan with one of the great Hasidim, and when he reached Barditchev, to Reb Levi of Barditchev, he said that the Rebbe was arrested, and he asked for you to pray for him. So he knew that his name is Shneir Zalman, but when you pray for someone, you pray together with the name of the mother, Shneir Zalman Ben. So even though they were very, very close friends in the Kutonim, in-laws, Reb Levi Yisrael Barditchev didn't know the mother's name. So he asked the Chosid, every Chosid, say today, is there any Chosid here in 770 in Crown Heights that doesn't know the name of the Rebbe's mother? No, everybody knows that the Rebbe's mother is Chana. But this is an example of what is a true Chabad Chosid, of Amoledike Chabad Chosid from time ago, that what's important is important, what's not so important is not so important. So this great Chosid of the Alter Rebbe, the Rebbe Levi Barditchev says, what's his mother's name? The Rebbe's mother's name. So I don't know. I don't know what her name is. So what did he do? He opened up a chumash, just like people could open up Ikras Kodesh. He opened up chumash. He put his finger on the chumash, and he put it on the word. It fell on the word Yesh Shever b'Mitzrayim. There is Shever on the word Shever. Shever is Shin Bet Reish. Shever b'Mitzrayim. And he said, this also you had to have Ruach HaKodesh, because the Reish could be many different feminine names. He said, Shever is Shneir ben Rivko. His name is Shneir, the son of Rivka. His mother's name is Rivka. And that's true. That's what his mother's name is. And that's from the word Shever. What is Shever? Shever is the root of broken. But what does it mean in this verse, in this context? It doesn't mean broken. It means sustenance. It means food. Yes, Shever b'Mitzrayim. Why is food and sustenance called brokenness? So one of the reasons the Chazal say is because that it breaks the famine. If a person is hungry and thirsty, it's like after a fast, What is the term, especially in Yiddish, well, even in English? What do you do when you eat after a fast? You break the fast. The food is a good thing. The food breaks the fast. That's in Hebrew. Shever, yes, shever b'mitzrayim. To purchase food, to purchase and sell is also called shever, the shabor bar. A person that provides, Yosef HaTzadik was the great provider of food for all of Egypt, and especially for his family, for the Jewish people, the kernel, the source of the Jewish people. What is his name? His name, what is the term in the Torah? Mashbir. Hu ha-mashbir l'chol haaretz. He is the provider of sustenance, of food for the whole earth. That's from the word shever. It means that he breaks all of the famine or the needs of all of the people on earth. Yes, so we see that this word shever it can be very, very positive. Meaning that the Alter Rebbe himself, if Beruach HaKodesh, he revealed his name by this word shever, so it means that he is also just like Yosef HaTzadik, that HaMashbir l'chol haaretz. Right, so as we said, everything has its root in holiness. So we were in the middle of now breaking, just like the ark is all its broken measures, breaking the world. So we take the word world, which is 146, we break it. Break it means cutting it into two. What do we get? We get 2 times 73. 73 is a prime number. You can't break it anymore into even parts. So 146 has one essential breakage, which is 2 times 73. What is 73? 73 is Chokhmah, is wisdom. So an explicit reference to our verse Chokhmot Bachutz, 2 wisdoms become one on the outside, and then they sing together. Singing throughout the Torah is also an idiom for elevation of sparks. Tarona. Chokhmot Bachutz Tarona, Barchovot Titen Kola. So the teaching so far is that in a broken world, the reason it's broken is because there's just one wisdom in that broken state, which is the external, the secular wisdom. It's the wisdom to create. In our generation, it's actually advance of technology. What's the way to mend that broken world? Is by bringing the inner wisdom of the Torah, which is the wisdom that shines, it's like a flashlight, that shines the sparks, and to unite that inner wisdom with the outer wisdom, and then together they sing together. So that's idea number 1. Now we'll turn to the word Torah itself. If the Torah was given to us to rectify the world, which, as we said before, from its outset is broken. God created the world broken. And He gave us the Torah to mend the broken world. So let's now contemplate the word Torah. All of the mysteries are within the words of the Holy Tongue. What does Torah mean? What is its root? Where does it come from? If we can understand the word Torah itself, and we all say Torah, but to contemplate what it means. So we'll be able to understand much, much better what is that power which is intrinsic to the Torah to be able to rectify reality and to bring Mashiach. That's what we're here for is to bring Mashiach. So first of all, Torah is or, as the verse says, Torah or. Torah is a light. Light is simply consciousness of the giver of the Torah. Why was the temple destroyed? It says the temple was destroyed because people learned Torah, but they didn't bless before the Torah. They didn't bless before the Torah learning. But it's so important that if you don't bless, then it's all for naught. And it all becomes, the positive Torah now becomes some negative thing, that the temple is destroyed because people learn Torah without blessing. How is that explained in Chassidut? It's explained that blessing means recognizing within the Torah the giver of the Torah. Because the blessing refers, you're blessing the giver of the Torah. And to learn Torah without blessing is like to learn Torah in a university. It's already external wisdom, it's not internal wisdom. To learn Torah means that we're aware that God right now in this very second is giving us this Torah. It's from His mouth to our ears and to our minds and to our hearts. So once more, Torah is the light of God giving us the Torah right now. And with that light, we can illuminate reality and begin to rectify, to mend all of the negative breakings in the world. What else is said about the Torah? In Tehillim we read one of the verses that relates to the Torah, describes the Torah, says that Pikutei Hashem Yisharim Samchei Lev. As we said before, light, light and happiness are two companions that never separate, always go together. The same is true of the Torah. The Torah for us, for the Jewish people, is the source of all of our happiness. If a Jew is happy, it comes from the Torah. Pikudei Hashem Yesharim, and the statutes of God, which is the Torah, are straight. Misamchei lev, they bring joy, they bring happiness to the heart. So there's something intrinsic about the Torah that's a source of a Jew being happy. You want to be happy, people are not so happy. Connect to the Torah. Try to find your letter in the Torah. Everyone has a gate, a letter into the Torah. The Torah has an infinite number of dimensions to it. Everyone has his dimension, his part, his path in the Torah. Find it. Pray that we pray to God, Ten Chalkeinu B'Toratecha, give our portion in the Torah. Let's go back to light, the fact that the Torah is a light. What's one of the famous sayings in Chassidut about light? The Rabbi always used to say, Ma'at or doche harbe min hachoshet, that even a little light dismisses, pushes away, pushes off much, much darkness. But if light appears, darkness automatically disappears, vanishes. Right, so once more, if the world is broken because there's darkness in the world, there's dark experience, that's part of the negative, broken world that we're in. So we have to have just even a little light will dismiss much, much darkness. How much the more so if there's great light, it's the continuation of the saying, as the Rabbi said, that great light not only dismisses darkness, but it actually transforms darkness into light itself. V'na'afochu. The ultimate thing is taking the negative and transforming it into positive, reaching back to its positive divine source. So light has the power first to dismiss darkness, and then to actually, if there's enough light, to transform darkness itself into light. Ki yitrona or min hachoshet. That's the advantage, it says, the verse in Kohelet, the advantage of light that comes out of darkness. So on the one hand, there's light. Whenever there's light, there is happiness. But if you're not happy, you're in the dark, for sure. Because if you would be in the light, you would be happy. Because light and happiness are train re'in de lo mitparshin la'almin. LaYehudim hayta orah v'simcha. Two companions that never sever. Right now we'll get to something much deeper in the secrets of the word Torah. One of the meanings of the word Torah in Hebrew is related to the expression hatara. Lahatir, hatara, Torah is cognate to hatara, and hatara either means to permit something which was forbidden, or it means lahatir, kesher, means to untie a knot. To be able to take a knot is also a very deep wisdom in itself, because they're very complicated, complex knots. When you study, the ability to unravel and untie a knot. That's called Lad. This is one of the meanings of the word Torah. In what context, in what idiom does that appear especially? Torah in the sense of untying knots. It's called hatarat safek. A knot in Hebrew is called a doubt. If you have a doubt in learning, or even a doubt about principles of faith, you, in your mind, in your psyche, you have a knot. And there has to be some power to untie knots. What is safek? What does the Baal Shem Tov teach us about doubts? He says that that's exactly the time that we're now in between Shabbat Zachor. This last Shabbat that we read, Zachor et asher asa lach Amalek. Remember what Amalek did to you. And Purim, which is also Mechiyat Amalek, blotting out the remembrance of Amalek. Amalek equals Safek. That's what the Baal Shem Tov says. That the meaning of Amalek is doubt. It can be an existential doubt. Hasidim used to be in doubt even if I exist. God certainly exists. Whether I'm here or not, that's a good question. All kinds of doubts. The word hatara, Torah, can mean either to resolve a doubt, or the very same word that means to resolve also means to permit. There's actually two opposite things. If I have if I have a doubt in my mind, it means I have a knot in my psyche. So I want to resolve, to untie the knot. It's called lahatirta kesher in Hebrew. Is to resolve the doubt. What about to permit? There's such a thing as permitting doubts. It's the very same word. I say hatarata safek. Hatarata safek, also you can translate it to resolve the doubt, or you can translate it to permit the doubt. What does it mean to permit the doubt? It's okay. Doubts are okay, but Amalek is okay. But maybe there are doubts that are okay. Maybe this doubt of whether I even exist right now, it's an okay doubt. It's a permissible doubt. There are certain doubts which are permissible. There are certain doubts which are forbidden. In the Sfirot, where's Amalek in the Sfirot? He's called the opposite of holy knowledge, of Da'at. Reshit goyim Amalek v'achrito adei oved. Amalek corresponds to knowledge, it says, to Da'at, and the ability to know God. If a person has a knot, once where he's all knotted up and he cannot directly connect, like it says in Tanya, that is his kashrus, his chabros, is connecting strongly to God. But if you have a knot, you can't. But there are some knots that you don't have to even resolve. They're permissible l'chatchila, like this knot of whether I exist or not. But the knots which are really the bad Amalek, they have to be resolved. What happens, what do you experience? The doubts and the resolving the doubts are in the moach, it's called the moach of doubt. What happens, what do you experience when you resolve a doubt? So there's a famous expression that's quoted over and over again, which is En simcha ka'atarata svikot. This holiday of Purim is the greatest, the highest level of simcha in the whole year. And it says there's no simcha, there's no joy, there's no happiness as resolving doubts. That's the greatest happiness. Where does that phrase come from? It's not a quotation from Chazal in the Gemara. What is the source for that? It's a very famous phrase. So it's important to know where it comes from, that phrase. En simcha, there's no greater joy, happiness, than resolving doubts. It comes from a very important commentary on the Tanakh, on the Bible, the Mitzvot David, on a verse that actually every Chabad Chosid says it 3 times a day, this verse. Ma'or einayim yisamach lev. The light of the eyes makes happy the heart. Who remembers when we say that? We say that at the end, if we're a Chabad Chosid and we're connected to the Rebbe, so we say that at the end of Shmona Esrei, every time we daven, that you say the verses of the name of the Rebbe Menachem Mendel, and the verse for Menachem, the first verse for the Rebbe. If your name happens to be Menachem Mendel, you'll say it anyway. But if your name is not Menachem Mendel and you're Shayach, you want to connect to Menachem Mendel, so you say this verse, Ma'or einayim yisamach lev, the light of the eyes makes happy the heart. On that verse, the Mitzvot David brings this expression. He says that the light of the eyes makes happy this pshat. Since we say this over and over again every day, we should know what it means. He says that the meaning of the light of the eyes makes happy the heart. It means when the eyes are illuminated to resolve a doubt that you had. You had a problem, you had a question. The Ma'or einayim is that light which illuminates problems that you had in your awareness. And as soon as you illuminate a problem, a doubt, you resolve a doubt, then your heart becomes happy. But the way he quotes this phrase, and this is the source of the phrase, the way he quotes is slightly different. The way it's always quoted is En simcha ka'atarat hasvikot. There's no joy as resolving doubts. But he adds another word. He adds to it, and this is the source, he adds to it, En simcha ba'olam ka'atarat hasvikot. There's no joy in the world. He adds the word in the world, the word which we're discussing and contemplating right now. There's no joy in the world as resolving doubts. Much more, it's on the verse, Ma'or einayim, the 4 words, Ma'or einayim yisamach lev, En simcha ba'olam ka'atarat hasvikot. Take the gematria of that whole, the phrase with the commentary, it equals 5 times the word Torah, ha-Torah. He said that the word ha-Tara, to resolve, which can also mean to permit, is one of the meanings of the word Torah. So we find here both da'at and simcha, because as soon as you resolve a doubt, you become full of happiness. That's called in Pirkei Avot, im en da'at en bina. Happiness is bina. If you have da'at, you have bina, you have happiness. If you have happiness, bina, you have da'at. So actually what we said right now are the three levels of the Torah that correspond to Chabad. That in wisdom, the Torah is simply light, the experience of light. And that even a little light will dismiss a lot of darkness, and a great light will transform darkness into light. This idea that the Torah means to resolve doubts, but also to permit doubts, is called the two crowns within da'at. In Kabbalah, within da'at, there's a right and a left side, which is called the right and the left crown. The right is to permit something, and the left is to resolve. Once more, to untie the knot is the left side of the da'at. And to permit, meaning that there are good doubts, or permissible doubts, is nishkefelech. Nishkefelech, if you have certain doubts, it's okay. Maybe if you have certain doubts, it will even result in a broken heart, which is certainly okay. Which is not only permissible, it's recommended. So there are the good doubts on the right side of the da'at that you have to permit, and there are the bad doubts on the left side of the da'at that you have to resolve. And then you become full of joy. En simcha ba'olam ka'atarat ha'sfekot. Right. Now, the permitting of doubts relates to the simple meaning of HaTorah. Like Baruch Matir Asurim. When do we use this word HaTorah? The Torah, what's more, Torah means HaTorah, to permit. In what verse does that appear? Baruch Matir Asurim. When someone was in prison, like the Alter Rebbe was in prison, the Friedrich Rebbe was in prison. When he gets out, when Hashem redeems him from prison, we're all in prison, in our broken state of existence. When God does a miracle and takes us out of prison, so what do we say? What does it say? What's the verse for it? Matir Asurim. Which means to allow. To permit means to allow, but it also a certain sense of resolving. Being in prison is also like a knot in the consciousness. You have to untie it. Say, Baruch Matir Asurim. What is the word Asurim? Asurim means that you're imprisoned, but it also means it's the very opposite of HaTorah. HaTorah is to permit. Asurim is like Asur, something is forbidden. It says in the future, many things which are forbidden will be permitted, permissible. Baruch Matir Asurim is interpreted in the Chassidut also to read Baruch Matir Isurim. Blessed is the one that permits things which previously I thought were forbidden. The word Torah means to permit. I might think that the Torah is full of Isurim, it's full of 365 prohibitive commandments, which say that something is forbidden, this forbidden, this forbidden, a whole list of 365 things is forbidden. So I might think that the Torah is primarily to forbid things. But the word Torah doesn't come from the word to forbid, it comes from the word to permit. What does that mean? It's explained in Chassidut that if I wouldn't have the Torah and I would want to just connect to God, to Hashem, my first thought would be that everything is forbidden. Because the whole world takes me out, takes me away from God. What is the chidush? What's the innovation of the Torah? That not everything is forbidden. There are certain things that you're allowed to do. That's the Chiddush. The very opposite mindset of a modern person. Because for a modern person, everything is permissible. Everything goes. And if I say that something is forbidden, that's a Chiddush. But the mindset of a potential Jew is just the opposite. He's wary. I mean, he's wary of everything, because everything can take my mind off God. So maybe I can't do anything. I just have to be secluded. And there were Hasidim like, just be secluded. Don't do anything. Don't touch anything. No, the Torah doesn't want that. If people don't eat something which is permissible, the Talmud Yerushalmi says it's a crime. It's an avero. The Torah came to permit things, not to forbid everything. There are things which are bad. There's a very important insight that the Torah means to permit. It's here to permit. It's not here to forbid. On the other hand, you can't have permission without forbiddance. Permission and forbiddance are a pair. Mutar asur. Torah comes the word mutar. The very first word of the Torah is Breshit in the beginning. There's a famous gematria that equals asur mutar. Forbidden, permissible. Which can also be read that first is forbidden, then it itself becomes permissible. That's chesed and gvura of the Torah. The chesed of the Torah is called Torat Chesed, not Torat Gvura. In the Tanakh, the Torah is referred to as the Torah of loving kindness, not a Torah of might, of severe judgment. Meaning that since the Torah is a Torah of loving kindness, it's a Torah of permission, not of forbiddance. But you have to have the two. You have to, for the permission, you have to have the forbiddance. That's called the chesed and the gvura of the Torah. What about the next sphere? Now, what we're doing now is we're meditating upon the word Torah in reference to all of the sfirot, all of the 10 channels of light and consciousness through which God created the world. There is superconscious light, that we didn't mention, that's the crown. Conscious light is wisdom. The inherent happiness that comes with the light and is never separate from the light, and also comes from the resolving the doubts, that's Bina. And the permitting and resolving the doubts, that is Dat. In general, permitting things versus forbidding things is the chesed and the gevurah of the Torah. Now we come to the tiferet. Tiferet is the beauty. This is a new word for the Torah. It says, and there are verses to support this reading, that the word Torah is cognate to the word Toar. Just like it says about Rachel Imenu, Aita Yefat Toar, beautiful of form, of appearance. Yefat Mareh, about Yosef, her son Joseph, it says the same thing, Yefei Toar, Yefei Mareh. Toar means description. The Chesed and the Gvurah, which is what is permissible and what is forbidden in the Torah, that's called the prescription of the Torah. We now make a pun in English. The Torah is prescriptive and it's also descriptive. The Chesed and the Gvurah of the Torah are prescriptive. What you're allowed to do and what you're forbidden to do. Torah is read as the description of man, Torah Adam, Zot HaTorah Adam. It's like man himself was created in the image of God. That image is a description, a divine description. It's called Torah. It's one of that picture. The word Torah is cognate to this word Torah, which means it's a picture. When you learn Torah and you connect to Torah, you receive some descriptive consciousness of divinity, which is actually man. It's actually the source of your own soul. Certain prophets describe their prophecy as though they're actually seeing God speak with them. Isaiah. So the question, Moses, who's greater than Isaiah, says that we can't see God. Nobody sees God. He no guf lo temuta guf. He has no description whatsoever. No ri'item kol tumanah. You didn't see any. There's no pictures. So how can the prophets sometimes speak in such a way that it appears that they're experiencing God? So the way the Noam Elimelech Hasidus explains, it means they're seeing the form of the root of their soul, which is a part of God. You can see all the way back to yourself in God. And what gives you that power to see, as it were, the picture of the root of your own soul in God? That's the power of the Torah, because the word Torah itself means picture. It's a divine picture, a divine description. Toar kalam odnitava. In Chag Shavuot, there's a prayer that reads the Torah, the description, the picture of the bride. Toar kala ma'od nitala. Right. So this is called Tiferet, the picture, the beauty. Like Yifat Torah is Tiferet in Kabbalah. This is the beauty of the Torah, that the Torah is descriptive, a divine description, not just a prescription. The next two sfirot of Netzach and Hod go together, the repair. When the Rabbi explains throughout all of the Ma'amarim and Sichot what the word Torah means, who does he quote and what does he say? He says that Torah is from the word Hora'ah. And he's quoting the Radak, one of the great Rishonim, the commentary, one of the great commentaries on the Tanakh. Torah Lashon Hora'ah. I mean, the Torah means teaching. It's a teaching of how to act in one's life, how to behave. So I might think that reading the Torah is Lashon Hora, this is the most general explanation of what the word Torah means, as quoted by the Rabbi always, over and over again. So I might think that Hora'ah is the same thing as we said before in Chesed and Gvurah, which is the prescription of what's permissible and what's forbidden. But there's something more about the word Hora'ah, that it doesn't just mean what you're allowed to do and what you're forbidden to do. Hora'ah is a way how to live your life, even in Derech Eretz. The Derech Eretz Kadmar Torah, every word, every story in the Torah. It's not, when you read a story about Avraham Avinu and Yitzchak Avinu, all of the stories in the Tanakh, so every word is full of Horaot, of directives how to live your life as a Jew to the ultimate level of goodness. How to be a mensch, a good person, which is called Derech Eretz, how to be a good Jew, how to behave properly is the two sfirot of Netzach V'Hod. Netzach V'Hod are the 2 feet, the 2 legs, that they walk together. How to walk your life. The Torah is a hora'ah, is a teaching a person. Every word in the Torah teaches you how to walk your life, how to live your life best. Once more, it's not just those prescriptions. When do you need a prescription? You need a prescription when you go to a doctor. So when you go to a doctor, he has to tell you what you're allowed to eat and what you're forbidden to eat. This is the way Chazal themselves say about kashrus. Kashrus is just like going to a doctor and then telling what you can eat and what you can't eat. But how to live, how to just simply behave properly in your life, to be a good person. That's called how to walk your life. How to overcome obstacles in your life. That's Torah, Lashon, Hora'ah, and that once more, those are the 2 legs that very often are considered to be one sfira, Netzach and Hod. Now we'll come to a new thing, Yesod, a new important insight of what the Torah means. Yesod, the foundation, is the procreative organ in the body. This interpretation of what Torah means is maybe the most exact and important according to Diktuk, according to Hebrew. When you study a word, contemplate a word, the first thing is what is the root of the word. The root of the word Torah in Hebrew is Yud Reish Hey. What does that root mean? It's not just something which is cognitive. All the things that we set up until now are closely related concepts. But this is the root itself. The root itself, Yaro, in Hebrew, means to shoot. I mean, the Torah means to shoot. What does shooting mean? What does shooting have to do with Torah? Shooting in the now you shoot a gun, but in the Torah you shoot arrows. The Torah is always shooting arrows. So if it's shooting arrows at the enemy, it's shooting arrows to kill the enemy. But it's not just that. Shooting arrows is an idiom for impregnating reality, becoming pregnant. It also is the same word as parenting reality. There's something about the Torah which is the thing which is closest to the root of the Torah is making reality pregnant in order to bear fruit, to reproduce. And to impregnate reality is with arrows of divinity, like photons of light. The light is not a particle, it's a photon that we're shooting. The Torah is continuously shooting photons of Torah. When we learn Torah, shooting photons of Torah into the world, and thereby impregnating. Once more, the photon is like seed. That's the function of the Sfira of Yesod, thereby making the world pregnant with divinity in order to give birth to divinity, in order to thereafter parent reality. That's a great rectification. So once more, this is a very, very, very important insight. The Torah at the level of Yesod, which is reproduction, is Torah shooting. The Torah is shooting arrows. You have to go, when you learn Torah, you have to first go through a course of basic training, like in the army, to know how to sharp shoot when you learn the words of the Torah. Acharon Chaviv, the last interpretation is also that we know altogether what the word Torah means. And it corresponds to the last of the Sfirot HaMalchut, which is the soul of the world of action that we live in. Whereas our broken world, if it's broken, is what is another illusion that the world we live in is initially broken. The verse says, Kol hanikra bishmi v'lichvodi b'ra'ativ yitzartiv af asitiv. Everything that I have created for myself and my glory, I have created it and formed it and even made it. This is the verse in Isaiah, which is the source of the three lower worlds, Briah, Yetzirah, Asiyah, creation, formation, action. B'ra'ativ, I have created it, then Yitzartiv, I have formed it, and finally I have even made it. Asitiv. But before that word made it, it says af, which splits. It also means anger, that word af. Some split before reaching the world of action, the lower world that we live in. There's a phenomenon of something breaking. What's more, it says, B'ra'ativ, Yitzartiv. I've created, I formed, af, something breaks between the formation and the action, and then after that breakage, asitiv, I've made it. In English, when you say I made something, it means that you've succeeded. In Hebrew, I have to find the same connotation. But I created it, I formed it, and I even made it. So that even made it implies some breakage, but it also alludes that breakage has to be rectified, because the word asiyah, to make, in Hebrew, means to rectify. It means to make something, but also means to rectify. It's the last word of the story of creation. Asher bara Elokim la'asot, God created the world to make it. Once more, in English, it's very nice that he wanted to make it. We help him make it by creating a dwelling place for Hashem below. But to make it means to rectify it. And once more, that the Sphirah which makes it and goes down into the lower realms to rectify and mend all of the ills of the world of reality is Malchut. We're taught that the ultimate making it, which is rectifying the world, is called making peace on earth. The final idea or contemplation of what Torah means, it also connects Malchut to Tiferet. At Tiferet we said that Torah means a picture, a description. Something you actually picture in your mind. In Malchut, the word Torah comes from the word Tor, Tav Vav Resh. Kol HaTor Nishma B'Artzeno. It says in the Song of Songs. What is Tor? Torah is a dove. We also sacrifice a Torah. So this is a very beautiful understanding that the word Torah itself means a dove. And from the Tanakh, universally, this comes from the Bible, the symbol of the dove is a symbol of peace on earth. So once more, this is descriptive, it's a description, it's a picture of something very, very specific. In the Song of Songs, we're now beginning, it's also Hashkacha Pratit, it relates to the season we're in now. We're just about to enter spring. About spring, the season of spring in Torah, it says in the Song of Songs that in spring, the voice of the dove is heard in our land. Kol HaTor Nishma B'Artzeno. That term, that idiom, Kol HaTor, the voice of the dove, is used in Kabbalah to refer to the voice of Mashiach. Because Mashiach comes to bring peace, the voice of redemption. Sometimes the Mashiach coming is called Kol Dodi. Hinei Zeba, the voice of our beloved is coming. But once more as a picture of something, it's called the voice of the dove is heard in our land. And that word dove is Torah. Torah. If you spell it backwards, it's a root. Root is also a symbol. Now there are two scrolls which are named after great righteous women, Ruth and Esther. In Esther itself, you have the letters Tor, Esther, Torah. Sometimes Esther is read Ein Sof Sheba Torah, the infinite light within the Torah. It's short. It's called Not Rikun, Esther, Aleph Samech, Ein Sof Tor. It could either be read an infinite dove or the infinite light of the Torah. And Ruth and Esther, they're two scrolls, that they're two women that went in opposite directions. Ruth is the one that went from the outside to the inside, that she converted. But Esther is the one that sacrificed herself from the inside to the outside. As we said at the beginning of the shir this evening, the ability to reveal and to unite the two wisdoms on the outside is tarona for song, which the song itself is bringing back those lost sparks, the fallen sparks that fell into the broken vessels, bringing them back to their source. And bringing them back to their source, that's Ruth. So these two women actually complement one another. Esther going out, and Ruth coming back. And they're both related to the Torah, the secret of the Torah. So just now we'll go very quickly through all what we said. We said that Torah begins as light, an experience of light. Light itself is a source of happiness. But especially there's happiness, light as a source of happiness is happiness coming from above, from light to happiness. But there's happiness that is aroused from below when a person resolves a doubt. And to resolve a doubt is from the word Torah. That's dat. That's defeating, annihilating Amalek, those bad doubts. Then there is the prescriptive laws, we'll call it, of the Torah. What is permissible, what is forbidden. That's the chesed and the gvura of the Torah. Also from the word hatara, that hatara means Torah. Then there's the descriptive picture of man. The whole world, if the whole world is broken, so the world does not reflect the divine image in which God created man. It says that the world is one big man. Every man is one little world. Each of us is a world. And the whole big world is one macro man. There's also a verse that reads in Kohelet that the whole world God gave within the heart of man. Right, so to see the world as man, as one big man, and to see the whole big world reflected in each picture of each individual, that's the beauty of the Torah. Then we said that the way to live one's life best, that's the hora'ah that we learn from every story, especially the story that's how we live. We learn how to be a good person and to be a good Jew. How to walk the path of life, bitmimut, in sincerity and simplicity. Then at the level of Yesod is shooting the arrows of divinity into reality in order to impregnate reality. Even in the Shulchan Aruch it says that the mitzvah of Puravu, of being fruitful and multiplying, is in order to reproduce a picture of God. So once when Tiferet we had a picture, if you give birth to another Jewish child, and the more Jewish children that are born brings closer Mashiach, every Jewish mother has to even have in mind that maybe her child is going to be the Mashiach himself. It's a good thought, the best thought to have in mind. That's reproducing a picture, another picture of God. This is what it says in Shulchan Aruch. That's the power of foundation that the Torah has. A child is, life in general, a child in particular, a Jewish child, most in particular, is called neg entropy. It's the very opposite of breaking. Breaking is entropy. A child is putting the parts together, putting the energy and the matter together in life, in a life form, especially if it's a Jewish life form that has a nefesh elokit inside of it. It's what the scientists call it neg entropy, negative entropy, the opposite. They're just talking about life in general, or saying that even how much the more so of his Jewish life. That's from the power of Yesod, the foundation. But then the ultimate end is this image of the dove. Kol hator nishma ba'aretzenu, that the voice of the dove, which is the voice of redemption and Mashiach, is heard in our land. And that begins to happen right now in Purim, because Purim is the dove coming to proclaim the spring. And the spring, just 2 weeks before Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the spring is redemption. And we have a mitzvah, l'mismach geula l'geula, to connect the redemption of Purim to the redemption of Pesach. And just like the redemption then was in Nisan, also it says the final redemption will be in Nisan, but it begins, so the beginning is Purim, is right now. So that's Kol HaTorah Nishma B'Arasem. So this is we call what we did this evening, this last part, is the partsuf of the different interpretations and understandings of what Torah means, and how all of it is for the sake of rectifying the world and bringing Mashiach. So should have a happy Purim, a happy Pesach. If somebody wants to ask a question, you can also ask a question. There's maybe well, this is Effie. I'll tell you, you can take questions if anybody has a question.
Any questions? Are there any questions? I'll take questions and the Rabbi will answer. Yeah?
Rabbi, you spoke about secular things, science, in the context of breaking. Could you elaborate on that a little bit more? Like the Torah was the connecting and connection to Hashem.
Okay, the question was, why do you want to repeat the question?
If I understood, the question was that the Rabbi spoke about science in the context of breaking and how Torah can rectify that.
But could you elaborate more on how science represents breaking?
So in the class, science was alluded to reflect the breaking of reality. Science itself is a breaking. And the question is if the Rav could elaborate why science itself reflects the breaking of reality.
Again, sometimes a person thinks that he is advancing, but the advance itself has negative implications or results in himself or in his surroundings. When we spoke about science breaking, we meant the advance. We were referring to especially the advances in modern technology. The breaking is in the ability of the mind to function properly. This is a very well-known phenomenon that we talked about generations, every new generation of a smartphone breaks the mind. Especially when you become addicted to it. But the worst possible thing is addiction to advance in technology. You lose your mind. It says that the first thing, and this is tremendously relevant and important for education. If kids should be permitted, we talked about what's permissible, what's to be permitted, what's to be forbidden. Are you allowed to bring your smartphone into your classroom, into school, even to have it in your house? Is it good for your education, to develop your mind, or is it bad? This is an example, but if a person is very profess in secular wisdom, it says in Tanya itself, before smartphones, chapter 8 in Tanya says that being totally immersed in science is bad for your holy mind. Does damage. This in from our modern way we think, this is a tremendous chidush, and we can even, many people will feel not just frustrated, but even not willing to accept what it says that says science, just being involved in science, breaks your holy mind, which wants for the ability to connect to God. So then, if we believe in what it says in Tanya, so it means that it's even a greater now chidush to say that if we're able to connect the two wisdoms together, then it's what could be bad becomes very, very good. Actually, this also says in Tanya, it says that there are certain exceptions to the rule. He says that the exceptions of the Rambam and the Ramban and those that knew how to use science for the sake of Torah. That those souls that know how to use science for Torah, together with Torah, then what would otherwise be bad, negative, becomes very, very good. So that's exactly what we were trying to say. Just think of somebody that's a great mathematician. The queen of science is mathematics. Pure wisdom. Something that's very hard for a modern mind to understand. The purest form of secular wisdom is simply pure mathematics. How can that be bad? I mean, it's wisdom. Wisdom, it's right. It's correct. It's not wrong. Every mathematical science can be wrong, but mathematics can't be wrong. It's right. It's proven. QED. How can that be bad for you, for your mind? But there's not. It's a very important thing, especially for Baalei Tshuva to understand. There's something about, take the greatest mathematician, Euler. He's smart, very, very, almost as smart as a Jew. He was very, very smart. Maybe he was smarter than me. I couldn't come up with what he did. But he was disconnected. It's totally, not just that he was a goy, but even if he would be a Jew lahavdil, his total involvement with that is truth, but it's disconnection. Nonetheless, it's possible to reconnect it. And if it's reconnected, then it becomes even greater than than being connected without the mathematics and without the science. I said, this is a great, important topic for our modern world to understand. Chochmot b'chus tarona.
Any more questions? Yeah?
Can a desire be a nut?
What?
Can a desire become a nut?
For sure. It can become can a desire become a nut? A desire can be an obsession. An obsession is a great psychological nut. What we wanted to say also about this, what you asked, and about with the science, another word, was it, and about resolving doubts, resolving knots. There's an important word in Chassidut that Mashiach comes, the first thing that he will do, he will heal all mental illness. The first act, if you want to identify Mashiach, the first thing you do is go in the psychiatric ward of the closest hospital here that has a psychiatric ward, or a special hospital, and he will heal the mentally ill. So, the beginning. In Tanya from Chazal, if you go off the straight path of the Torah, you are at least temporarily feel that insanity, which is the mind. It's all goes back to the mind, and that's the first act, the first and most important act of Mashiach. But what's more, desire can become an addiction. It can become an obsession. Obsession and addiction are obviously knots of the psyche that have to be resolved, have to be healed. And that's the power of the Torah, to untie knots. There's a famous saying in Chazal, this is exactly what you asked. It says, Am haaretz asur le'echol basar. An unlearned person, literally it reads, is forbidden to eat meat. So the question is, what? Someone who's unlearned is forbidden to eat meat? According to the Torah, he's not forbidden. It's permissible if it's kosher, if everything is kosher. What does it mean? So it says that the word asur, forbidden, means that he's bound. To be forbidden in Hebrew means to be bound. He's obsessed and he's addicted to eating meat. If he has Torah, the Torah itself heals the addiction. He's no longer bound. That's one of the deep understandings of Matir Asurim, that the more you learn Torah, the less addicted you are to all of the mundane things that you do and that you enjoy in life. The Torah is called Milah, it's taking you off addiction. That's why it permits things, because it unties the knots. Okay.
Any more questions?
The Rabbi, please give some parameters or guidelines, because this whole idea of the fourth revolution, at times it appears to be a landmine, because bringing this discussion to other forbidden, they step back and saying we shouldn't do it. So the Rabbi gives some adracha how we can avoid that machlokas, which is so painful and such a consumes so much energy, just to be more successful at doing it.
And the question was that the Rav mentioned about the fourth revolution approaching non-Jews and bringing them nearer to the Torah. And it said this may be something that could arouse some antagonism even from fellow Jews who see this approach towards non-Jews as something that may not be the correct approach or even problematic. And if the Rav could give some notes or ideas on how to approach this in a way that wouldn't create conflict with other Jews.
Okay, so if the Baal Shem Tov would have known how to answer that question, Mashiach would already be here. Whenever there's a revolution, something new. There's a kind of word also has to do with forbidden, permissible. It says chadash asur min haTorah. Anything, any new idea, new thought, new way appears to be forbidden. It actually relates to what we said before, that initially a person can think that everything is forbidden. That's why the essence of the Torah is Torah Ches is no, there's things which are permissible. Not everything is wrong, is forbidden. But especially if there's somebody innovates something, which is a novelty, a chidush. So people immediately are wary, and it arouses machloket. This is the machloket against Hasidus. Nonetheless, after that is said, even the Baal Shem Tov did not know the answer to your question. How to avoid it? How to avoid machloket? All of the great people, even the Rabbi, we can say, the Rabbi also didn't know how to avoid machloket. The Rabbi didn't want machloket. There are certain tzaddikim that actually liked machloket. Like Rabbi Nachman, it says he liked. He said you can't say it. Don't say it out loud. That he invited machloket, but don't tell anybody. But most tzaddikim did not like machloket, did not want machloket, but they had some new message to give to their mission in life. They were given from God a new message to give to the world. And people find it hard to accept new things. Are wary about it. So once more the Baal Shem Tov and even the Rebbe himself, they said all kinds of new things, and they aroused machloket. Simple things, but the Rebbe said miftzoim, to put tefillin on people. Something bad about that? So many Frum Jews thought it was forbidden. It was bad. It's great machloket. Something which is so obviously good. All right. Nonetheless, after this is all said, we still have to make our greatest attempt to avoid machloket. So we have to think best of how to say it in such a way that it will be received properly by potential misnagdim to what we're saying. We have to understand where they're holding and what they think about Torah. Again, they think it's forbidden. The fourth revolution, as you said. So many Rabbanim will say that it's forbidden according to Torah. That's why we call it the revolution. In order that we don't have the time now to go through all the four revolutions. But each one was like this. It's something that appears to be forbidden. The time comes, et la'asot la'Hashem, heiferu toratecha. The time has come to do something which appears to be forbidden. Now to make it permissible and even mandatory. And the time has come, and we have to explain it according to halacha. So actually we're in the midst of writing a whole book to explain according to halacha why this is permissible. So let's hope that it takes on. It takes. So we have to pray also. Pray to Hashem. It shouldn't be the people should accept the truth, and it shouldn't be machlekes.
How can we be more aware of Hashem, of learning Torah? That's the first question. And the second question is, how can Jews who are out Isla Aretz send those sparks from Eretz Yisrael?
I didn't get it.
The first question was, when we learn Torah, the Rav mentioned that the light of the Torah is when we have awareness of Hashem while learning Torah. So how can we be more aware of Hashem whilst learning Torah? And the second question was how to send these sparks, the Jews in Chutz La'aretz, how can we send these sparks to impregnate, I think that's what you're referring to, reality to Eretz Yisrael Davka. From Eretz Yisrael.
Okay, so the last I didn't understand the whole thing. The last thing is that now we have media for that. We have to use the media for Kedusha, to connect. The world is a global village. all very, very small. We have to connect together. And Hashem Ya'azor. So as much be afraid of Purim and a kosher and Pesach, everyone.